rolling? Okay, we're rolling. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Telegraph Herald. More in the Score, presented by Dubuque Bank and Trust. I am your dutiful host, Steve Ortman, back in the saddle with Jim Leitner. How's it going, Jim?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Oh, it's doing well.
Nice week of vacation for Steve.
It was a nice week of vacation, but it's good to be back. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Had a very nice vacation with the family. Yes, settled down, everyone. It was a great vacation. Please. You're going to make me blush. This is getting ridiculous. We got a show to do here, people. But anyway, yes, I had a nice vacation back here, and we are just about to get in the thick of things, the prep baseball. City School is about to take off this weekend, so let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, all three city schools in Western Dubuque get started on Friday night. I think all three of them had a nice chance to win a couple games in the postseason, and with a couple of the schools, if they win 2 games, they make it to the state tournament. So it's going to be an interesting. This is always the fun time of the year for high school baseball, at all levels. And it seems like in this part of the state, we always have a team that's in contention for a state tournament berth.
Yeah, and you look at the cities. Also, the city school's about to get underway, but a couple other classes have already gotten underway.
Yeah, the smaller schools have taken. They got started earlier this week. Dyersville Beckman won their first game, actually a district semifinal. Cascade won a district semifinal. Those are both in Class 2A. And then in Class 1A, both Bellevue and Bellevue Marquette, as well as Edgewood Colesburg, also won their tournament openers too. So they're still alive. But the big boys get started on Friday.
Yep, and what have you seen from the 3 city schools throughout the season? Does one team maybe stand out that can maybe make a longer run? Or?
Well, Dubuque Senior is actually the #1 seed in their sub-state. They've got really nice pitching depth. This is probably one of the best seasons they've had in several years. They've got, like I said, they have nice pitching depth with Jacob Kerman and Tucker May and T.J. Deerdorf. They've got a real nice balance, and they've been hitting the ball pretty well and playing good defense, and those are always good recipes to make it down to state. As the #1 seed, if they win their first round game against Clinton on Friday night, they get a bye into the championship game the following Wednesday. So they're set up pretty well based on what they accomplished during the regular season to possibly make it to state. Dubuque Hempstead is kind of entering the postseason on a little bit of a slump. They're a team that's kind of, in my opinion, they're a much better team than their record shows. And this time of year is always good for that team that, kind of struggled down the stretch to kind of get a new life. And, if they get a little bit of enthusiasm, they get a few hits, and, that becomes contagious. I think they're a team that could possibly surprise a few teams and maybe make a run. Dubuque Wahlert is entering the postseason with a little bit of momentum as well. They shared the city championship with Dubuque Senior. They're playing in Class 3 actually, so they have a bracket that I think is very winnable. They go out to Manchester West Delaware in their 4-team bracket, and they play Independence in the first round. But I think that's definitely a bracket that's winnable. And then on the other side of their sub-state would be Waverly Shell Rock, which is a very strong program with a lot of state experience, so that'd be a tough hurdle for them. But the way Wallert's playing, I think they're lined up for a possible return to state too. We can't really forget about Western Dubuque. They're a team that's actually moved up to Class 4A this year. Casey Bryant has a relatively young team this year, but they've played extremely well in the WAMAC conference, and actually, even though they play predominantly a 3A schedule, they're a #3 seed in their Class 4A sub-state. So, they've got a nice season. They're a team they play City High in the first round. They're a team that could possibly win a couple ball games and make it down to state, despite having a pretty young roster.
Yeah, well, prep baseball playoffs, not the only thing going on here around the tri-state area right now. We've got, on my end of things, the 48th edition of the Mississippi Valley Open Tennis Tournament's going on this week. Juniors just wrapped up. The adults are going to get things underway this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The men's and women's singles open finals will be on Sunday morning, and those both take home $800 in cash for the winners. So the big event coming on this weekend. But like I said, the juniors wrapped up just earlier this week, and Joyce Sun from Dubuque Hempstead, she was a freshman this past spring. She qualified for the state tournament, And, I talked to Hempstead coaches. They weren't really sure what they're going to get out of her when she was coming up this spring, but she proved herself right away. Played #1 singles all year, made it to the state tournament. She picked up her first 2 MVO championships this week. She won the girls 16 singles championship. She also teamed up with Hempstead teammate Sydney Connolly to win the girls 18 doubles championship. So she was pretty excited. She's got a bright future for Hempstead. I caught up with her after she won the singles final. Here's what she had to say.
Have you won many championships at the MVO, or?
Not really.
So how exciting is it to wrap this one up?
Exciting, yeah.
Yeah, and well, let's talk about your freshman year with the Mustangs. Your coach even said she wasn't really sure, kind of unknown what she was going to get with you, but you ended up playing #1 singles. Talk about that experience, and as a freshman, how good it felt to qualify for the state tournament.
It was really nice qualifying for state, and my teammates were so supportive of me, and we're like a family kind of.
Sure, and lastly, you'll just be a sophomore next year. Over these tournaments, what are some of the things you're kind of really working on now as far as improvements go?
Just improving after every match and finding out what my weaknesses are and trying to improve on those.
Alrighty, so that was Joyce Sun with the MVO tennis tournament. Will be a very exciting weekend here coming up as the adults enter play. Baseball also this weekend going to be starting up with the bigger classes for the baseball playoffs. But we also just wrapped up softball playoffs. Cascade, tough loss, 1 win shy of state.
Yeah, Cascade was a team, I think they were ranked as high as #2 in the state in their class, and they had a tough regional final. They got beat by Conrad, BCLUW, which is kind of over by Waterloo, a little south and west of Waterloo. But Cascade had another great season. They're a team that made it to the state championship game last year, and they had a nice roster again this year, and obviously to earn that kind of a ranking, and they just fell a little bit short. But the softball postseason is so fast. It's only 2 or 3 games to make it to the state tournament, and it's those games are right on top of each other. So if you have a bad day, or if you have a week where you're not playing really well, you can be done in a hurry. So tough break for Cascade, but we had a nice softball season this year, and we'll be having our Telegraph Herald all-area softball team coming up in a couple weeks, as well as our all-area baseball team. So even though the season is kind of coming to an end in both of those sports, you can have those all-area teams to look forward to in the future.
Yep, and we're definitely staying busy during these summer months, and with the baseball, tennis, softball. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at TH Sports Feed, and you can also follow us. Hopefully, producer will put a nice graphic right here so I don't look like an idiot. At TH Sports Feed on Twitter, and we got a brand spanking new Facebook page, Facebook/Telegraph Herald Sports. So be sure to follow us, like us on Facebook, and that's going to do it for this episode of Telegraph Herald. More in the Score, presented by Dubuque Bank and Trust. I am your host, Steve Ortman. He's Jim Leitner. We'll catch you next week.